Good morning, everyone. We are going to wait a few minutes for everybody to be able to join. Welcome to our Ask Any NX Anything webinar for Europe. We're looking forward to see what kind of questions you guys have. So today on the call from our side is James Cox, our European Business Development Manager, and then Sergey Bistroff, our co-founder and CTO, and myself, Tony Luce, the Marketing Director at Network Optics. And Oscar Shia, our sales director, may be joining us here shortly. We're not sure yet. So, if you got any questions, we're going to do it multiple ways. So you can write in a question on the Q&A section, or you can add it on chat, or if you could raise your hand as well. And we'll, if you got a microphone, we'll even allow you to ask us questions directly using your mic. So again, welcome to the Ask NX Anything webinar. We'll be getting started here in about a minute or two. Just waiting for some more people to join us. Apologize for the change in time, guys. We accidentally set the time to 3 to 4 a.m. my time and 1 to 2 a.m. Sergey's time, and we had to reschedule it so we could be awake for this. So, how's the weather, James? Where are you, UK?
Yeah, I'm in the UK at the moment. It's better than it was. We had a storm in the weekend. So, it's now 17 degrees. How's it in Texas?
What'd you say in the last part? 17 degrees what?
It's 17 degrees, but how's it in Texas at the
Oh, I thought you said it's 17 degrees in Texas.
moment?
Which actually, I think it's the same weather here. It's 17 degrees here right now.
There you go.
Yeah. 17 for everybody. Nice fall weather. So it's kind of sunny. Cold front finally came through. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. So anybody that's on the call right now, if you've got any questions, feel free to start the questions rolling. If you don't have any questions, I think James, you said somebody emailed you some questions.
Yeah, I got a few questions from a few different people that emailed in.
Sergey, you back?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. All right. Well, James, why don't you start us off with a question so these guys can see how it works, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so one of the questions was from an integrator in the UK, and they were asking about the best process if they have products that they want to get integrated into NX. For instance, Control 4 is one of the ones that they're looking at, but then also we have other companies that look at integrating access control and different products available on the market, and they know we have the tools to do it, so they just want to know like the best way to get it going.
The best way, well, I'll answer from my perspective, and Sergey, maybe you can answer from your perspective. The best way from my perspective is that you talk to the product company that you want to have integrated, and you see if they're familiar with our SDKs and APIs, and if they're willing to do an integration, because a lot of times integrations are really simple for third-party products into our software. It also depends on what type of integration you're looking for. If you're looking for a way to, for example, pull events from a third-party system into us, then there's our instant integration tools that allow you to do HTTP requests, generic events, and send generic events to us as HTTP creative and API calls really simply. If that third-party product supports API HTTP calls, then you can integrate it yourself with a little help from us. And James, I think, is familiar with the way it works, and I'm familiar with the way it works, and our developers are familiar with the way it works. And you can talk to our dev community and get products integrated using HTTP events and actions really quickly, right? Without making anybody participate other than yourselves and for your customer. So that's the best, easiest way. Then the next would be to talk to the manufacturer again and see if they're willing to do an integration. If you wanted to pull video from us, for example, into Control 4, then they already handle video integration with a lot of different companies. So I'm assuming they have a fairly straightforward way of doing it, like pulling RTSP streams from our servers and putting it into their software. If it's a integration that simply requires network optics to participate, then the best way to get an integration done is to go to our community at support.networkoptics.com. Um, just a second, I'll pull it up so you guys can see it. So support.networkoptics.com and click on community, and then go to the feature requests, new feature ideas, and throw your kind of integration requirement in there, and then have people from your company or people that you know also want to see that integration done participate in the forum, because these discussions are things that our product management team watches, right? So if we get enough of a request for an integration and it's high value, and especially if it's pegged to like a specific project with a considerable size, then those are things that we consider doing in terms of adding additional support in our software for something like that. But in general, all of our integrations are done. And just to be clear, the integrations are now available in two spots, right? On cloud, we have our integrations marketplace, where you can see the existing integrations that are done. A lot of them via the Metadata SDK and plugins for like AI analytics. Um, and but then basically any type of integration is here. And then also on our my.networkoptics.com, if you go to here and you go to the works for the next section, you can see a lot of integrations that have been done here. So for the third-party integrations, all these integrations are done by third parties because our developer tools are free. They're included in the software. There's no fee for integrations, unlike some of our competitor solutions out there. So, you know, there's no single way to do this, but in general, the best way is get familiar with our developer tools and understand what you can do instantly, like HTTP events and actions, and then talk to the manufacturer that you would like to see integrated. Make sure they understand that our dev tools are free and the integrations are free, because a lot of times these guys are willing to do an integration. They just need a project to justify it. So that's my answer, Sergey.
Oh, perfect. I have nothing to add.
Ooh, that's unusual. James, anything else to add?
No, I agree. Like one of the bigger advantages of obviously NX is the fact that it's REST API makes it really easy. Like I know Tony's done this and I've done this before. We go to exhibitions and someone in the stand next door might have like a PIR detector or something that's IP based, and pretty much we get it integrated in less than 10 minutes with a fully functioning integration. It's
Yeah.
really versatile in the way we can do the integration.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the HTTP events and actions, then I suggest you go watch our video on how it works. And if you need like some additional assistance, talk to James. James is really familiar with how this stuff works, and he can show you some I think real world examples. Yeah, we had at Germany and Essen about when we first introduced the HTTP generic event. Like James was saying, we were at a booth, and our partner asked us to integrate an access control solution, and we were able to do it in like 5 minutes. And then they said, well, what about this one? And they pointed to another alarm system, and we said, does this support generic events like HTTP events? They said yes. We said okay, and then we got it integrated in 5 minutes, and within 30 minutes we had 5 different solutions at the booth integrated into NX Witness, and everybody's mind was kind of blown, because HTTP events are just really dead simple to set up, and they're syntactic integrations, right? It's just literally send this event and use it to create rules inside of your system. Pulling video out from our system is a little bit more complex, but most of these companies already have, if they support some form of video in their interface, then they've already got the ability to pull RTSP streams a lot of times, and that stuff's exposed right on our server. So it's pretty simple and straightforward, guys. But the best way to get stuff integrated is to educate your partner manufacturing companies about our integration tools. And if you need help explaining our integration tools, then any of our guys will be willing to jump on it, help explain those. So, all right. Any questions from the attendees? I'm not seeing any raised hands or questions come in on Q&A. Oh, there's one. When would it be possible to send metadata from a bookmark event coming from an external event with a snapshot taken out of the bookmark to a third-party system? On this moment, it's only possible when you receive the metadata and then do a get video trigger. Sergey, you want to answer that one? Do you understand the question?
Not yet. Give me a second.
So basically, you get an event, create a bookmark, and then you want to take a snapshot of the bookmark and send it to a third party.
Oh, I think they're talking about, you know how like we were discussing automatically backing up the data from bookmarks?
Yes.
From what the way I'm reading it, they want to basically take the data from the bookmark and give it to a third-party system.
So basically download the bookmark and all of the associated metadata and context and put it on in a third-party system. Like a video object, basically. Right? Is that the way you understand it, James?
That's the way. Han, if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, Jan, if you want to give us some more context, maybe make sure we're understanding it in the chat, or we can invite you to.
So I guess some event creates the bookmark, right? But like you can download the bookmark afterwards completely. So like.
Yeah, like move the bookmark and its associated metadata time. So basically, Jan says like a license plate metadata. So you could send a best snapshot and a license plate to a third-party system, right?
Yeah, but what is the question, like how to get best shot out of a system for the track for a given license plate recognition? Or like,
well, I mean, right now you can just do a get bookmark API call, right? And pull up all the bookmarks from our system and send it, but that would be, you'd have to develop that, right? So I guess, Jan, I mean, what methodology are you thinking about by doing it automatically from our system? Like, how would we transfer that information to a third-party system? Because the third-party systems all have different ways of handling data as well.
I think the other thing that he may be alluding to is if the metadata takes it draws the boundary box around the license plate, right? But we have no way of downloading just the boundary box data. We have to download the whole image still. If we grab the image, you might want to just get the box of the license plate. Yeah.
Well, we have automatic finds. We have best shot right now in the software, right, Sergey?
Yeah, we have best shot, so you can get so like the way it works. There is an object track, right?
I can show it here. Yeah.
And it has a best shot, so you can download best shot.
Yeah. So like here's an AI while Sergey's talking. Sorry, I'll just show you guys what it looks like. And here's an AI camera in my garage, right? And it's going and grabbing different objects that it's recognizing license plates, right? In this case, right? So if I want to see license plate tracking, it's already kind of pulling that best shot in right here, right, Sergey?
Sorry, I was reading the question one more time. Sorry, I didn't listen to it.
I said we're grabbing the best shot already from the cameras, in this case, the Hanwha camera, and we're putting it right here, right?
Yeah.
And I know that because in my camera settings, when I go to the plugins, I think there's a section under here that actually has a best shot. I remember seeing it where I could select it and say share best shot. It might be in the web page itself.
It doesn't matter. It's not specific to any plugin, so you can anyway download the best shot API.
Like this,
so
right?
So I think if you want to make it automated, then you would have to set up an alarm in NX that basically an HTTP event to push a notification to the find system, and then the find system would have to call back and grab the data, the information that was in the
Sergey,
HTTP.
one way we can make that easier is to have it like a pre-configured HTTP event, right? Like where you have an action. This is just an idea, right? So underneath the if analytics events happens, then we want to send a bookmark to third-party system or something, where it's basically a structured HTTP call.
Maybe Jan
I
is
don't know.
asking. Maybe
Yeah.
Jan is asking if we can put image best shot in HTTP post request. Like if that's the question. Maybe this is the question, right?
Jan, would that help you? Like what Sergey said, if you were able to put the best shot plus the associated metadata, basically a pre-configured API call. Should send it to a third, but I mean, Jan, you're saying send it, but how? Help clarify that. How do you want to send it? As an email? Or as a text? Like, I mean, how are we sending it to a third party?
Via text.
Text, like an SMS. Okay. So basically, I mean, that's a.
So like I maybe I don't understand the question. If it's about sending the text, mean push notification, right? Then you can set up.
It's not as a push notification.
Yeah, so just an event stream. So kind of like we would have in the old days with serial over IP. So
yeah. So basically, when you say like can be sent somewhere, it means that software has to do like I don't know. Typically, video is pulled out of the system through Optix or something like that. The only way to push something is like I believe is HTTP post. So like it would be some action to such as HTTP request, HTTP post request that would contain some information.
Yeah, and it would
yeah.
have to
Maybe
be.
you can. Yeah, maybe you can share like users.
Like a specific usage scenario, like start with a specific system.
Yeah,
right?
like what would be the how to say what do you want to achieve?
What's the third-party software that we're going to be sending it to? It's a question for you, Jan. Like, give us a specific software or a specific thing that we're sending this information to that the user is going to consume it with. Think about it, Jan. Let us know. Automatic find software.
Yes. So I think the only way we could do it at the moment as is basically when the event comes in, we send an HTTP notification with the ID of the event, the GUID of the event, to the automatic find software. Then the automatic find software will call back to the NX server with the GUID and ask for the best picture and the license plate and the date, time, all the information. I think that's the only way we could do it as a push. It would still have to have some form of pull in there. You can't push video.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to know where you're sending it to, right? And in what format it needs it in order for it to interpret it, right? So,
but it's doable.
Yeah, definitely doable. It just depends on the system we're sending it to in text format.
It would have to be in HTTP request, so in JSON formats.
Yeah, it couldn't really be text format because it includes image data. So it could be a multimedia message, right? But that you could do that right now with Zapier.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do this, Jan. So for your specific question, what I would do is go to our developer community and just describe which system you're trying to connect to, like the specific software package. right? And then how you want that information to be conveyed. And then our support team can give you some ideas on how to get it done pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Jan. I think like what we currently have is already should be sufficient enough for you. So why don't you post a question in the community, and we will help you with detailed answer.
All right, James, you got another question?
Yeah, another integrator in the UK. They asked, what is the best solution hardware-wise to run the software? They specifically would be looking to store footage locally on hard drives, so like PC, Synology devices, servers. So yeah, just general questions about the best hardware solutions and what we recommend.
We're pretty hardware agnostic, right? The answer to that question from my perspective is it depends. Like how many cameras you got running, what resolutions, right? Are you like personally, like if I'm building an NVR with our software right now, I'm gonna probably use Ubuntu Linux because it's free and I can control that environment really well. Whereas typically like IT departments won't mess with what they consider to be an embedded device. And when you install Ubuntu Linux and you make it a machine that's dedicated to our software, then they're much less likely to mess around with it. Whereas if you put it in Windows, a lot of times the IT department controls the Windows distros in their company and all the upgrades and maintenance and integrates it with like LDAP groups and all that sort of stuff. So when you go into a Windows approach, the IT department feels some form of ownership over that device. So when I was an integrator, I like to install things that the IT department wouldn't mess with, right? Or wouldn't feel like they owned, because a lot of problems came up when IT departments made upgrades to our Windows servers and stuff like that, that broke the system because of compatibility issues or something like that, or some new Windows update that introduced some sort of error. In terms of like manufacturers, I mean, there's a lot of manufacturers out there, you know, off the shelf stuff from Dell and Supermicro and HP, and you know, pretty much any large computing company is going to work really well because we're CPU based. You don't need a lot of juice on your device, and you don't need a ton of RAM unless you're doing a lot of cameras. James, you want to add to that?
Yeah, for his specific case, he does kind of like high-end, large kind of homes, like mentioned. So he's talking lower probably camera quantities. So yeah, like pretty much will work on anything because of the fact that we do run lightweight. Like you can use a standard home computer if you wanted to, with the hard drives in it. The main thing to look for is just that it is a piece of hardware designed for running 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing to add to that would be the drives. Make sure, like we'd recommend using like the Seagate Skyhawk or WD Purple drives, just because they're made for continuous recording and read writes, like high level of read writes for the devices themselves. So they're made to be powered on 24 hours a day. We always recommend like dual NICs, because you'll have that way you have a backup, or you can even create like a virtual LAN for your security system and have one connection going to the internet. So there's more redundancy there. If you want redundancy as well, look at like power redundancy. Power units are the things that fail. One of the things that fail most often on a computer. So dual power, dual NIC. Those are my general recommendations on hardware. Hey, Sergey, you want to add anything?
No, but I think I know the previous question better. Like I understand it better now. From Jan.
You mean from Jan?
Yeah, Jan, you know, like in a 4.1 version, in the latest version, HTTP action has ability, like if you look at release notes, it has an ability to attach like inside the HTTP post,
parameters.
you can attach parameters from the event itself. So like maybe this is what you're looking for, and just check the 4.1 release notes. And if it's not enough, let us know. We will help you to address your issue. Okay.
So the action parameters, Sergey, where do you find those?
You can start with reading release notes, right? So you can like add in HTTP post, you can add such things as, from which camera the event came, camera name, event type, event name, event caption, event description. So
that's in the patch though, right?
No, I believe it's in the release.
Oh, I thought it was in the patch. Let me check.
No,
you're right.
Yeah, it's in the release. And more is coming, so it's in the next version. It's going to be completely flexible, so you can add like any parameters from the system, like anything at all. So, but anyway, if what we currently have is not enough, and we didn't promote it much, but if what we currently have is not enough for you, let us know. We will, I don't know, try to help you somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if it's on. I think there might be an article that describes it as well. I think I remember the guys put one up there. Maybe not. You know what? We'll talk to the support team and have them put up an article about the different parameters and how to use them as well. But that's another good question to ask on the forum. So, all right.
Well, sorry, I was just going to go.
Anything to add on the hardware?
Yeah, so just going back to the hardware, there's one thing I wanted to add especially for system installers and for distributors. We have some customers that, because of the way that our Hive architecture works, it allows them to kind of go for a single unit approach. So they have a kind of low-powered embedded kind of 1U server that basically can do 16 cameras plus 16 failover. And rather than then stepping up and having like a 2U and things like that, because of the way the Hive architecture works and the low costness of the 1U server, they just go and duplicate them out, right? So if you've got a 100 camera system, rather than going and finding a server or finding different solutions for every single project, they basically just multiply the amount of 1U servers they use. When you Hive it, it just ties it all together as if it's a single system. So in that scenario, you could use like 4 of these 1U servers. They will have redundancy built in, they'll fail over to each other, multiple access kind of gateways to the system. And realistically, the cost-wise, it ends out the same as if you had a 2U fronty server to do the 100 camera anyway, and it kind of adds a lot more functionality. And then as a distributor or a system integrator, you've got one hardware to support pretty much all your projects, rather than you have to go and ad-lib your hardware solutions for different projects.
Yeah, it's a good point. If you can settle on a single chassis that kind of meets most of your requirements, it's going to reduce your overhead a lot by allowing you to do quotes and systems a lot faster, and then do support a lot quicker. So we had one customer that was spec'd out, and they used Intel nukes everywhere, clients and servers basically, and they added NAS devices for longer term storage. And so they had like 2,800 sites, and they were basically going to use all nukes, all the same model of nukes, because that way they could always just swap them out if there was ever an issue with any piece of hardware, and they could have a single kind of approach to it. So everybody's different. We don't sell hardware for a reason, and that's because by adding hardware into the mix for us, we're not really adding a significant amount of value. And if we were to sell hardware, it would be like shipping metal all over the world. So we would just be adding costs without adding a ton of value. So we prefer that our partners and integrators, are able to source any type of hardware that they can get their hands on locally, so that they can have the best value and they can have close support for their hardware. So the nice thing about NX Witness, of course, being it runs on pretty much anything. So There's a new video we're going to be putting up probably today in a post about Raspberry Pis, using Raspberry Pis. So, I mean, it runs across pretty much all hardware. Any more questions out there? If not, we can have James ask another one.
Yeah, I actually have a
Feel free to ask anything, guys. We're open to any type of question. It doesn't have to be just about how the software works right now. If you got questions about like the future, or you got questions about you know, what we think about certain things, and you know, feel free to ask. Go ahead, James. You want to ask another one?
Yeah, these are all just questions from people in the field. So someone asks, actually, I've had quite a few people ask recently, why do we prefer to use a CPU instead of a GPU?
Sergey, you want to take that one?
I didn't hear. Sorry, you were breaking.
Why do we prefer using the CPU as opposed to decoding with like GPUs?
So like talking about decoding, right? It's about hardware acceleration decoding, I guess, right? So like
no, I mean just generally, why do we prefer CPU over GPU?
Yeah, so like historically we use dual streaming, right? And you know, like it's scaled well for us. So if you have multiple items on the screen, multiple video items on the screen, multiple videos on one screen, sometimes we can automatically switch to secondary stream, and it's like seamless for users. We don't like notice that. So we stick with this. Like we were using this technique for a while until recently, and we keep using it. But on top of it, we added hardware accelerated quick sync, right? So why don't we use GPU as a decoding engine? It's just not much, I guess. Like we don't gain much, I guess, out of that.
Well, the way I understand it, right? Because I mean, originally NX Witness supported some GPUs from NVIDIA, right? I remember when it was first coming out, it had some GPU decoding support, and then we removed it. And it was, from what I understand from talking to you guys and talking to the developers, was every GPU has slightly different ways of handling it, and GPUs get updated firmware and stuff often. Whereas CPU
drivers, yeah, drivers. So
yeah,
like
drivers. So whereas CPUs, once you've developed for them, I mean, basically they're going to be pretty stable, and it's going to work pretty much the same way over time. Whereas in the past, the GPUs, the operating systems, everything else had different drivers, had different ways of interacting with those devices. So it was not as dependable to use a GPU as it was to use a CPU, right? And like Sergey said, I mean, we don't really require the GPU, so it reduces the cost of hardware as well by using the CPU, because GPUs cost more than CPUs, right? So that's one big reason. And anything else to add to that, Sergey? I mean, we're going to be, from what I can see, like this is my you know, marketing sales guy, business development hat, but from what I can see, the GPUs over time are being integrated into CPUs, like with Intel QuickSync. So Sergey's talking about our Intel QuickSync support in 4.1 patch that we just put out, and the patch is available on MyNX, and also if you've got the rights for it in NX Cloud underneath downloads. If you're one of our direct resellers, you may have access to additional patches and beta versions, and it can be found here as well. But in that, in this release, Intel QuickSync, we just gave a presentation yesterday on IPVM about it. But when you install the 4.1 patch now, there's an option in the client to enable GPU decoding, right? And this is for Intel QuickSync itself. QuickSync is a hardware decoder capability. I'm not sure why this is not coming in higher resolution. Let me get it to play higher so you guys can see it. There you go. So you can see here, use hardware decoding, right? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go to my NX2 here, which I have set up, and it's running a Core i3. and I'm going to enable GPU decoding on it. And this is the chart of the CPU. I've got like 4 really high-res cameras that are being decoded on there. And as soon as I activate GPU decoding over here, that decoding load is shifting over to the built-in decoder on the Intel chipset die, and you can see that the CPU usage goes from around 90% down to about 60%. So it's about 30% CPU savings. So even on lightweight hardware, lightweight Intel hardware, for everything from Intel Atom up to Celeron, and even the larger chips like Core i7s, Core i9s, they all have that quick sync decoding die built into the chip. And it just helps offload that decoding capability to QuickSync, which will save you CPU usage, right? So really valuable primarily in environments where you either have a low power CPU and you want a better performance on your client, or you're decoding a really high resolution video like 16 megapixel, 32 megapixel streams. Just helps to offload that workload to the GPU itself. So over time, I think you'll see us support more of that. Anything that's like universal makes sense to do. If it's oh, we want you to support the latest, Tesla GPU from NVIDIA, it's a more complex ask, and it has less value overall because not a lot of people out there want to buy, $10,000 video cards or whatever it is. So, I mean, there's not a huge benefit for the effort put in. It costs more, and the capability of most computing hardware right now is good enough to run our product without having to have that expensive GPU. So, all right, there's a question that came in.
Quite a few. It started rolling now.
What's up?
I said there's quite a few. It started rolling now.
Yeah. So Miguel asked, is it going to be possible to have an NX client running on a Raspberry Pi 4? Sergey, you want to answer that one?
Not at the moment. Not current. So we will have to build not at the moment. So right now, the answer is no.
Not planned.
And not planned here.
Yeah.
We don't plan to do client for Raspberry Pi 4 so far.
So Kurt asked one question: is on the mobile app, is there a possibility to see a grid? Like the way that the desktop client works. Not right now, Kurt. I think it's just a fundamentally different experience. Sorry, I think it's a fundamentally different experience on the mobile client, because what the mobile client really to us is about is getting alerts about things that you need to view, and viewing video kind of one at a time. It's not really the screen size and the capabilities of the device themselves make it possible to do multiple cameras at the same time. But from a user experience perspective, most people will use the mobile client to react to like specific events. So having one video pop up is pretty sufficient. Go ahead, Sergey, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so with I don't know if it helps or not in mobile app, you can go to the settings and you can say I would like to update the thumbnails quickly, and this way, once you open layout on mobile app, you sort of get the video. So I guess to a degree you can do it today. It's not going to be like live. It's going to be 1 frame per second or so. I forgot, I'm about to see what the settings are, but you can speed up the thumbnail refreshment speed in mobile app, and once you open the layout, it looks like live video.
Yeah, if you go to the mobile app and you click on the left and you go to well, it just says show live previews, Sergey. I don't know if it allows you to change the
yeah, it shows live previews here too.
And it's I think it updates every second right now, right?
Yeah, now something like that. Yeah, so we introduced it. Yeah, apparently there is no way to change the frequency, but at least you can turn it on and off. and if it's on, it updates once per second. And to be honest, it's like every iframe, I guess, it updates, right? So it sends all keyframes to mobile.
So question 2 was, can showreel be automatically started for a video wall monitor?
Once, yeah, we had such a request. The answer is no, it cannot.
Not yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that would be a nice action, Sergey, to add to the rules engine, was if this happens, start this showreel on there, right? Because then you could have a soft trigger that you could use to trigger it, or you can have a specific event, or even time-based would be nice. At this time, start this, you know? So one of the things we want to improve a lot is the rules engine, in terms of like the flexibility of the rules, the type of rules that you can set. And our guys have some mock-ups of like almost like visual programming in the rules engine, which is really cool. But in terms of like when that will be available, it's not going to be in the next release, right, Sergey? It may be in the following release, but
correct.
So it's a complex thing, right?
Yeah, but we actively working on redesign event rules engine, and like redesign event rule engine implies flexible parameters in action. So it's back to Jan question at very beginning, right? So like you can say like I want this to be included into like action, or I want this action to be executed only if the speed of the car is more than 50 miles per hour. I want action to be executed if voltage is less than something. I want action to be executed if this and this event happens at the same time. It's going to be lists such as like white list, black list for license plate recognition or similar scenarios. So if some event value, some event parameter value is in a list, do something or don't do something. So such things are coming. We are actively working on those, and it's the version, and it's not going to be the upcoming release. It's going to be right after this one.
Kurt has one more question, which is, do we have a preference for storage of video between iSCSI and Samba?
Do we have permission to do what?
Do we have a preference? Like, would we recommend using iSCSI or Samba?
No, I don't think we have a preference.
I would say, from my perspective, right, I like iSCSI because it looks like a native storage location. I mean, when we write to iSCSI versus writing to Samba, Sergey, is there any functional difference?
Not at all.
So that, like, if you add a Samba storage location, it's gonna act just like iSCSI, right? Well, the way I understood it though was that iSCSI, okay, if you add iSCSI, you can add it as individual storage blocks, right? So you could basically mount a drive as a iSCSI drive and treat it, and we would write to it like a normal drive, right? Whereas Samba NAS devices, if you have a bunch of drives on a single Samba NAS, correct me if I'm wrong, Sergey. If I add that NAS as a single storage location with a group of storage, then we're basically sending the video to the Samba NAS, and it's handling the writing to the drives themselves. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like we write to the, like from a server, from a media server standpoint, from a media server point of view, storage is just a storage, right? And we write to the storage and we read from the storage, and the underlying protocol doesn't matter to us. The only difference is that if we recognize it as a NAS, we will leave more free space on a NAS, a little bit more.
But you can modify that if you know how, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like we have, I mean, you guys are on the call, so we can kind of show you probably. Let me see if I can open it up here. So if I go here to the server, and I replace, is it just advanced here, Sergey? Can't remember the exact, nope. James, do you remember the advanced?
Yeah, so use a hash then advanced after the, yeah. Oh, no. After like the last slash.
Nope.
As in like the last slash after 7001 / hash advanced.
Right here?
Yeah.
Then do advanced?
Yeah.
I think I tried that already.
You do the hashtag.
Oh, you got to do hashtag? There you go. So there's this special kind of section underneath the server admin interface, which isn't really accessible from the server admin interface, but you guys can know about it as kind of advanced partners. And here you can go in and you can modify the reserved storage space on a drive, right? So you can see here, I've got 30 reserved right here, but let's say I want to change this. Actually, I want 100, right? So I can change my D drive to be 100 gigabytes of reserve space. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And then my C drive is not enabled. There shouldn't be enabled. Oh, maybe it is because if I press that and press OK, it's going to change the reserve setting space. So we will not overwrite the last 100 gigabytes. We'll just leave it free. So if you want to change it, you can change it. There's a way to change it in the server interface itself. You just got to know about the secret link, which you now know about. So. All right. So, James.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of comments to two of the questions. So Miguel asked about the Raspberry Pi interface. Then Kurt asked about like a quad or a grid view for mobile apps because he has security guards and stuff using tablets rather than TVs. One of the good things about our REST API is if you have someone with minimal web development skill, you could quite easily make like a live monitoring interface with multiple cameras in it, just using like HLS in like a web interface effectively, which would give you an easy way to basically view live video in a grid or in whatever kind of configuration you want on a Raspberry Pi or in a tablet. It needs like minimal kind of API experience. We've done it times for some customers to have like a spot monitor effectively via a web browser. So it's definitely something that can be done on your own as well if it's something you guys need.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, like we have enough developer tools that if you guys want to create your own clients for our interface that are more specific to your own customers and your own market, then that's something you guys can definitely do. You know, if you work with a development partner, we have existing partners who have their own mobile apps that are based off of our API that work really, really well. And they have a different user experience that they defined for their customer base. So if you're an integrator, integrators these days really need to add a significant amount of value and to really differentiate yourselves. We always recommend getting involved in the software development side a little bit because it's getting simpler and simpler to do. And you really create kind of your own unique value. And that's why we put our developer tools right there, is that we know that you guys have different requirements and different customers who have different requiremments. And those developer tools really allow you to create a kind of fully custom tailored solution to exactly what your customer wants. And if you do that, then your customer's probably never going to leave you because you're giving them exactly what they want, right? So it's a pretty high value proposition. All right, James.
Yeah. Let me see. I did another question. I thought another question came.
Oh no, it was just a comment about how tablets are being used now instead.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, let me just have a quick look to see what other questions we had come through. We had a question about integration of third-party cameras. How do people send commands to cameras? So I guess if they've got wiper controls or something like that. And then also, how do we integrate cameras?
Sergey?
James, you were breaking up. The question is how to integrate cameras, right?
Yeah, so there was a question about how to send commands to cameras. So for instance, if a camera's got some features and you want to send a command from NX to the camera, for instance, if you're turning on a light, or some cameras have wipers. And then additionally, how do we manage our camera integrations? Like obviously we use OnVIF, and then we also use some native integration. So kind of like, what's our strategy there? Why do we choose our strategy? And like, what are the advantages of it, kind of thing?
Yeah, basically when we say like do camera integrations, when we do camera integrations, we have some sort of checklist, and our checklist is we should get 2 streams out of the camera: high quality stream, low quality stream for video. We also integrate audio, I/O, input output. PTZ, two-way audio, right? Like, and analytics, I guess, right? And analytic events. So this is released. The question is, what do you need? If you have a camera which has all of the above, I bet this is only the camera, and likely you don't need to integrate that. So if you want just to receive video, for example, the best strategy for you would be not to make the integration and instead use, you can add into the software generic streams, generic RTSP streams, and you can like even set up primary and secondary stream if your camera supports it, and our software can handle like H.264, H.265, motion JPEG, and yeah, that's it. From the camera, right? So like I say the best way to integrate the cameras is not to integrate cameras at all, right? So maybe all you're looking for is add, if by some reason your camera does not support OnVIF, then the best way would be manually add camera into the software through RTSP links and not to make the integration. But if your camera supports all I mentioned at the beginning, your camera is likely to be OnVIF. And so like
Sergey, high level, we have a kind of consolidated OnVIF plugin that we've developed, right? That OnVIF is a self-declared standard, meaning that you say, if you say you're OnVIF, then you're pretty much OnVIF, right? There's no real testing or anything like that to confirm if you're fully OnVIF compliant, right? So you can be partially OnVIF compliant and say you're an OnVIF camera manufacturer. And so as a result, we have an OnVIF plugin that deals with a lot of the issues, like common issues we see from OnVIF cameras, right? And the information you're seeing in the camera settings dialog is information that's pulled, a lot of it from the OnVIF API. So that we can interact with cameras pretty commonly via OnVIF. The stuff where you're starting to get like custom integration for cameras, where we use the camera manufacturer's SDK or API itself, is going to be more in the rules engine side, like the analytics support, and then in additional capabilities that camera might have that are not specific to OnVIF, right? So for turning on and off a wiper on a camera, right? Most cameras don't have wipers. If they do have a wiper, then I've never seen one where it's, I haven't used a camera with a wiper, to be honest. I'm trying to think of one I've used, but it probably won't be something that you see here as part of the OnVIF plugin. It'll probably be something native to the camera SDK because it's unique to that. It's a pretty unique feature, right? So the way that you can potentially trigger a wiper to start will depend on the camera manufacturer. And so if you have a camera where the wiper is not being, you can't really control it via our existing interface, then what you could do is take a look at the camera's API documentation and then just go to the camera and set up a rule, right? where it says, you know, if this soft trigger is pushed, right, then I want you to do a HTTP request, and then you can send an API call to the camera to turn on the wiper and turn off the wiper, and that way you'd have like two buttons on that camera that allow you to adjust, like make the wiper start or stop, right? So that's an example of like just with a wiper, right? But that's how you can add camera capabilities and still be able to control them in our software, if even if we don't natively support them, is by using the camera API itself to get it to do specific things that you want it to do. And most of the cameras out there are going to have API documentation that'll state very clearly what kind of HTTP requests you want to send. So
Yeah, but if also if by some reason like only for generic events or generic RTSP doesn't work for you, uh, there's SDK you can use to make any kind of make any deep camera integrations. So like you would need to develop a plugin, and that plugin will discover and manage cameras. It's called Video Source Sdk, and it's available for download on our like everywhere, like on MyNext on Cloud Portal.
yeah, on the server web page itself, right?
On the server web page itself, yeah.
Yeah, so you would be able to, here I can pull it up just so these guys can see. So if you go to for developers here, Sergey's talking about this SDK, the Video Source SDK. So again, if you want to add some capabilities, this is a way to do it for a camera. And basically, you're gonna create a driver for that camera, and the driver is going to be specific to operating system depending on how you develop it. So, but the capability is all there for you guys to create custom integrations with existing devices. And this SDK as well, it's probably better called the Source SDK because it also is for IO devices, um, and like third-party NVRs and DVRs and all that sort of stuff. Basically, you have more capabilities than just video, right? So,
Yeah, the
any
only other thing to add to that, so there's a camera company called Red Vision. They have wipers, but they also take HTTP events. So you can create a button over the video with we have a wiper icon. Basically, just triggers the generic the HTTP event, and that will trigger the wiper. And then in other cameras that don't have any kind of HTTP event support, there's kind of like a way around it, which is we normally support the I/O on pretty much every camera that has an I/O. And usually cameras that have wipers and stuff, they have I/O boards on them as well. And you can, as a kind of get around to, if you need to do it and there's no kind of software available to be able to do it, you can loop the output into the input, and then you have a soft button that triggers the output, and then it is sensed on the input, which when you make the wiper go, when it's detected, just as a workaround. So there is always, we always have a way of doing things. That's one of the nice things about the NX software.
Yeah, there's always a way to get accomplish what you want. It may not be the ideal way, but there'll be a way. So I think what we talked about earlier is definitely go to the community here if you're facing an issue that you don't know how to solve, like integrations, and ask those questions, because our developers want to hear those questions, and our support team want to hear those questions and to be able to provide solutions, and our sales guys as well. I mean, all of us participate in this forum here. So, all right, we got another minute, James. You got another question?
That's all the questions I had. People relay to me. I don't know if anyone, any of the attendees have any questions that they want to bring up before we go offline.
And just for you guys that did attend, we're going to be planning on doing these like once a month or so. So, you know, if you don't, if a question pops up in the meantime, you can either ask it on the support community, or you can just hold off till the next Ask It Next, and we can talk to you then as well. Our goal with these is really to let you guys ask a lot of open questions about, you know, the software, how it works. You know, you can even ask where we're headed, what we think of certain technologies or the trends in the market in general. We're kind of an open book. We definitely want to keep you guys informed about what we're doing and what we see the market doing, and things that we think you guys should, pay attention to in terms of trends and ways that we're trying to come up with solutions to new challenges that are popping up. Our big focus right now is on developing and integrating with as many different AI camera integrations as possible. That's why we have our integrations marketplace. That's why we have our Works with an X ecosystem. There's just a tremendous amount of value in the AI-driven analytics, deep learning-driven analytics, in terms of the amount of metadata that they're generating. So you're going to see us focus a lot on that, because it creates, actionable business intelligence, and it increases operator situational awareness. So it just makes the systems much more valuable. Other things we're focusing on is just, like we said, better rules engine. Sergey, 4.2, we're going to be introducing cloud storage as well. So the ability to back up kind of key video clips and everything like that to a cloud environment, as opposed to keep it all local. So you have offsite capabilities, storage capabilities. Anything else in 4.2 you wanted to, or next release you want to talk about, Sergey?
4.2 is, it's two-factor authentication, archive encryption. It's right panel redesign. Right panel redesign.
That's a good point, though. So security is another thing we're highly focused on, right? So two-factor authentication and archive encryption. So like everything that's stored is encrypted now, so that even if you have physical access to the machine that the archives are on, you're still not going to be able to grab the video off of it and view it without having the encryption key. And the way that we're implementing that as well, Sergey, you said we're basically allowing the users to create their own encryption keys, right? So just allows them full control over, their data.
Yeah, so like the users will have to enter the password, and with this password, the archive will be encrypted. So it's on-site encryption. Yeah.
And in our feature ideas too, we've got, if you haven't participated in the forum, we've got mock-ups now of like things like face person and pixelation. We know that's very important for Europe, is privacy. So the ability to automatically potentially pixelate every single person or every single face that we find in a video, so that you have to be able to, you have like multi-user authentication, that type of stuff, and then you basically have to go in and disable the pixelation in the client itself in order to be able to view video, right? We want to hear more information about from you guys in terms of what are the features that need to be implemented as something like that to make it compliant with your local privacy laws, and also just user friendly, right? Easy to use and nice. So when we put up these feature ideas, you'll see a lot of ongoing discussions here about like the specific UX, right? And we want to hear from you guys. These mock-ups are just mock-ups, right? They're not necessarily what we're going to implement. They're ideas. And so like this is the place where you guys can give us real-time feedback to those ideas, and really help us influence what the end result is going to look like. So we really promote this community, because this is where ongoing conversations are going to impact the potential implementation of features. So definitely participate in the forum. Your voice matters, and your insights in your own local markets help us create a more universal solution. So, all right. Well, we're at 1 hour and 4 minutes. If there are no more questions, then we'll let everybody. Oh, there you go. Chris Norton, can pixelation be done to a specific area of the scene? Custody suites and police holding sections? Not right now, Chris. I mean, that's something that would be good to bring up on the forum in terms of like, how pixelation will work and what you can use it for, right? So.
Yeah, that's a request we got.
Yeah, a lot of the masking and stuff like that right now is done on the camera side. And if you think about it logically, I mean, that's a good place to do it because it masks the video before we even get it. So there's no chance we're going to be getting something that we shouldn't be getting, right? But that's masking. I mean, pixelation itself is a more challenging thing because we need to know, okay, what are the user rights that are associated with pixelation? How are users going to use it in the real world to depixelate stuff? It needs to be flexible. So like, let's say you wanted to have an environment where you want 3 people to have to log in, you know, the owner and 2 admins or something like that to depixelate. We want to make the user rights for it flexible so that you guys can decide, you know, how you apply the rights in live systems. All that type of all those type of parameters for how a feature works is where you can tell us how you want it to work, and our UX and product management team will take a look at all the different use cases and come up with something that's universal, right? So it can as universal as possible. We're not able to do we're not able to create perfect features, unfortunately. That's just not the way the world works, right? But we can take as much feedback as we can and try and make something as universally useful as possible. And if you look at our software, that's the general approach to features, is hit the key points of a feature, try and make it universally useful, and then take feedback on it and iterate on it over time based off of that feedback. So,
Tony, do you mind if I take advantage and ask a question to Chris? Like, it's going to be quick.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, Chris, you know, like, obviously, like, we believe the best way to achieve pixelation would be, you know, like, we receive metadata from cameras, we receive object information from cameras, and let's say if the camera recognized a person or face, whatever, right? And it gave us the information about this object, we can, like, including coordinates. So our software can, like, our pick client on the fly can, you know, pixelate it as long as it knows the boundary boxes of this object, right? And it can display it pixelated for users who do not have privileges. And it seems to be like straightforward to achieve it. But the challenges to do complete pixelation would be, let's say there are like a lot of places also where pixelate, for example, thumbnails or like through API you can get an image. I wonder if it's okay if to begin with we will support pixelation only in a pick client and ignore the fact that it's not pixelated in API and similar. I guess I already asked this question to James, and I know like the answer from James, but you know maybe Chris, you can also answer this. If it so, like, if
So
it's
your question, Sergey, is if we roll out pixelation, is it okay in the first version just have it on the desktop client, not the mobile or web apps?
mobile probably also, but not like API. So through API you still can get depixelated image.
Right. So if you use the API, then you could request video and get it depixelated. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So like the question is it acceptable? This,
So Chris, that question was for you. Would that be unacceptable? Desktop only is fine, is what Chris said.
thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's 10 minutes after the hour. We'll let you guys get back to your work day, and we appreciate you guys coming on and engaging with us at the Ask Us Anything webinar. Like I said, we're going to try and do tomorrow. We're going to try and do more of these once a month or so. So keep your, gather questions throughout your interactions with your customers in the market and bring them to our next Ask You Next Anything. We'll be happy to talk about them with you then. In the meantime, like I said, we're really promoting using the community, right? Ask anything you want here. There's no bad questions. Our developers and our support engineers and our sales guys and our BD guys, we all participate in this community. And we like to see what you guys have to say. And this is a real good place to have conversations, not only with us, but with other integrators in your region and across the world to see what they're doing as well. So, all right, James, Sergey, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tony. Thanks, Sergey. I'm sure everybody enjoyed listening to hearing about the questions they had.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your September. All one day of it.
Half a day now. All right, catch you later, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.